Welcome to The Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy Buss, and I'm a family business survivor and also a family business advisor. In this show, we will be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family businesses, this podcast is for you. So today I have two guests. I have Kelly Kolar and her daughter Audrey Eyman from Kolar Design and KX Innovations. And Kelly is the founder and pioneering force behind the experimental design, workplace strategy, and data-driven branded environments that both companies are known for. With over 30 years at the intersection of brand, space, and human experience, Kelly has led Kolar Design to become an award-winning firm servicing Fortune 500 companies, civic institutions, and healthcare systems around the world. And Audrey is the second generation working in the business and is currently working in sales and marketing. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Oh, it's great. I'm glad you could be here. So I want to start at the beginning. Right. So take us back to the early days of when you started the company. Kelly, tell me about what inspired you, to start these companies.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think sometimes people don't realize that they're serial entrepreneurs until they get to the stage of life that I'm at right now, where you've created multiple companies for the right reasons. But in the early days, I had graduated from the University of Cincinnati in the design school, and I entered a design competition to design the look for the city's 200th birthday in 1988. So my first job out of college, I actually won a design competition and was hired to implement my thesis. So I was, working away, toiling away, getting ready for the city celebration. And I remember on the first night, which was the New Year's Eve celebration, I was standing on the edge of the side of one of our buildings with a photographer looking out over our Fountain Square, which is like our crossroads of our downtown. And I saw, 40,000 people coming together to celebrate with light and happiness and joy what our city means to each of them and how we were inaugurating the fact that we had been around for 200 years. And at that moment was a take breath away moment. And I knew then that was the type of work that I wanted to do. I didn't have the words to describe what it is we do today at Kolar, which is harnessing the power of design to change lives. But I knew then that I was no longer just going to label myself as a graphic designer and only do graphics, but that actually I was going to build a company that practiced at that intersection of people and place. And so the journey began in 1990. Coming up next year, officially the corporation was formed in 91. And that's when I founded Kolar Design Inc. And in the beginning, it was just Kelly and the band. My first employee was, a co-op from the University of Cincinnati. And since that time, I don't even know, we probably had over 200 co-ops since that time.
Yeah, including me.
Including you, yeah.
Including Audrey, who was also one of our co-ops.
Well, you did well, Audrey, because you're still there. And I fired my boys, a couple of times over the years. So, and that's really true when you think about it, Kelly. Most of us who started businesses really just started it to fill a need. And it was just, as you say, you and the band. There wasn't, you didn't have this whole bunch of people around you. So when you look back over the years, you now have this award-winning, innovative driven business.
Yeah.
Right? What are you the most proud of?
I think the thing that I'm most proud of is really the journey that we've been on. And when I look at the amount of lives that we've changed with the work that we do, and we continue to make an impact, I decided that along the journey around like 2015 to 2017, I decided that I really wanted to create a legacy firm. And I didn't want to just be a solopreneur, and close the business. A lot of people, they hang out a shingle like a lawyer or, a design firm, and it's just all about doing the work itself. And in 2015, I was starting to think about, what do I want to do next? And I think what I at that time, what I figured out is that the most important thing we do in our lives is create significance. and the power to impact other people's lives is what this company does, way beyond me, way beyond what I ever could have been when I started out, toiling in my little studio there. And I knew then, as I looked around the world, that no other company existed that does what we do. No one else harnesses the power of design to impact the world. And I knew that we had already earned a place in the world that was important, that we continue forward. And so I think that's the piece I'm most proud of. And literally, like in our company, we have 30 or so people now. I mean, whether you're working here on the accounting side or on the business development side, like Audrey is, or you're working on, the actual design delivery, or you're working on the technology advancements of the company and you're a data scientist, etc., we all have the same purpose. And if you can design a business as a founder that's purpose led, and you can attract and retain the best and brightest people that we're all working for the same cause and mission, that to me, for any company, whether you were Mr. Procter or Mr. Gamble originally in Cincinnati, touching lives, improving life, or you're, little Kelly Kolar here at Kolar Design and KXI, harnessing the power of design to change lives. I think that's the thing I'm probably most proud of.
Great. And Audrey, you're now not just a colleague, you're also the daughter. So what are you most proud of and what drew you into working with your mom?
Well, thank you. I mean, I think for me, the thing that I'm most proud of is the way that Kelly leads the company. I saw her give a talk a few years ago at this conscious capitalist group in our city. And the more that I've seen in the business world, the more that I've realized that the way she runs her company is pretty unique. She does the right thing every single time. And it's really cool to see someone that is in a position of power, right? That has that responsibility of those 30 people, that leads with empathy, leads with ethics, and leads with just doing the right thing, right? And creating that positive impact for the community. And that it's really awesome. So I'm honestly most proud of that, of being able to work at a company that embodies that. What made me want to work for her? Well, she's my original teacher. So I wanted to learn from her. I I was always really excited by the work that she does, and especially working with communities of people. I think that our work is really about bringing people together and creating a space, whether that space is a park, an office, or a whole city, or a healthcare institution, a physical space that supports bringing people together as a community and makes them feel proud to be there, and excited to be there. And, that is really inspiring to me as a mission. So I wanted to come work for her for those reasons.
Now, was this talked about at home? Because of course it's your mom and there's this business, and as you say, she was your teacher, your original teacher. But did was the business sort of discussed at home in a different level of this is what we do, as opposed to, oh, this is a paycheck, I come home and, do you like your lifestyle? Well, I go to work every day to provide that. Like, was there description, and how was that sort of talked about at home? Because it's hard in a first gen, right? It's hard in a first generation founder business.
Yeah.
Audrey, I'm going to answer first, and then
All right, I'll let you answer first. I know the answer.
So
you wouldn't stop talking about it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so, good news and bad news. Like, first of all, who was my first board of directors? It was my family, my children, every night at the dining room table. I mean, I'm a daughter of an entrepreneur. And every night, I'm the youngest of 5 children. Every night when my father came home from growing his small business, he would go around the table and ask each one of us, how was your day today? What did you do? Tell me about what you accomplished. And then he and my mom would both participate in the conversation and share what their day was like. And so we would always learn from each other and ask each other questions. And that's just how I was raised, at the dining room table, breaking bread together is the way that you talked about your life and what things were happening, positive and negative, and impacts that were happening. And so, yeah, it was always about sharing and being stronger together, supporting each other. So that's why I always laugh and say that really our son, Adam, at Eyman, as well as Audrey Eyman. We're the first board of directors along with my husband.
Yeah, I'd say that really, yeah, I mean, that's accurate. That's what it was. We
Mhm,
really, we were always involved and aware of what was going on in the business, both in both our parents' businesses. My
mhm,
father is an entrepreneur as well. Um, and we were at the office, right? Like, after school or wherever, right?
mhm.
So we were always very involved and very much getting to see and learn from what's going on in the company. Um, Another way she's described Kolar Design is as her third child, which I think is accurate.
Yeah, I always say it's the firstborn.
The firstborn,
And
yeah.
generally the favorite. No offense. I've got two boys and and they know that.
Fair, fair.
I do love them, but so let me just back up a little bit. So you have a brother and you have a son and you have a dad who has a business as well. So how did that decision go to which venue to head towards, which lane to head down?
Yeah, I mean, I think really my family always encouraged me to do whatever was best for me. I think one thing growing up in a household with a creative household, both my parents are also designers, right? So, um, freedom of expression, right? Be yourself, go wherever you want to go, right? Um, but when I expressed an interest in joining the company and becoming a designer, I was like, I want to create spaces. This is so cool. You know what Kelly said to me? She was like, don't do it. She said, she said, don't go to design school. Don't do it. It's really hard. It is not an easy path. Um, it takes a lot to become this and to stay in this type of career path. But I was really excited by it and inspired by her, and I wanted to pursue it. So I did, and it's been awesome. I learned a lot. I worked and did some really cool projects in the studio, and um, now I'm on a really great path of um, working in different parts of the business
Mhm,
and learning the business, seeing how design is not just in the work that we create, it's also in how we build our organization,
mhm.
you know, and with creativity.
So one of the things, Kelly, and I've never asked a client this, but I'm going to ask you this,
Sure.
um, because what you said to your daughter, most of my clients say to their kids,
Yeah.
because it's first generation. When you
Yeah.
start the business, like my kids used to say to me, "Why are you always at work?" It's
Yeah.
so hard because you're building your business one client at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
As you say, it's you and like nobody behind you, right? It's you are the whole team.
Yeah.
So did you say that because of the hard work it took to get this business off the ground? Because it doesn't matter what industry my clients are in, whether they're in trucking, they're in
Yeah.
manufacturing, they're in retail, they're in building, like everybody says the same thing. Oh, this is so hard. Accounting, law, like
Oh,
so
yeah.
what was the reasoning you said that to Audrey?
First of all, I wanted to, it was so important to me that each of our children, can vividly unfold as adults with who they are and who they want to be. And you only get one life. And I
Mhm,
really believe in creating your path forward. And so, most importantly, I wanted to make sure that there was freedom of choice and that they could pursue and become whoever they want to. They can be in the business for a while and learn what they want to, like a buffet table, right? Like a
yep.
cafeteria. You can go in and take what you want and leave the rest, and still continue on your path. There's still lots of great things to learn. We can be part of the journey, but definitely, I really never wanted to kind of mandate that anyone do something just because the business was there. On the hardship side, I will say for sure, Audrey and I think we crossed that bridge really quickly and early on when she said, I know one thing for sure. I do not want to be Kelly Kolar. And I said, trust me, I don't want to be Kelly Kolar either.
Yeah, most days I could pick somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Please, could I be somebody else too? Just because you and I also, we both know what it takes, right?
It's
So
hard. It's
yeah,
one
it's
client
hard.
at a time. It
Yeah,
is, can I
especially in
make the
this.
payments this week?
especially in the
Yep.
service side, right? The service side of the
Absolutely.
business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think at the time, that was the life I chose for myself, that I led, that I wanted, and I got the most fulfillment and reward out of that. But that doesn't mean that that's for everybody, because it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
Hmm.
Yeah.
However, I also do believe that what's so important for anyone that's in a situation like we are, and you were, obviously, with your business, is that you provide the opportunity for them to choose. Life is, like having chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry ice cream. It's all good, right?
Hmm.
And any one you choose, for however long you choose it, it can be your favorite, and that's great
Hmm.
too. And so for me, again, just, and especially with my husband as well, we always raised our children, many paths, same destination, is got to be about, family and love and joy, and you pursuing what matters to you most. And that's a journey that we all have been on.
Hmm.
So with my husband's pivot out of his company, we had two separate companies, then we had companies together. Then he decided at 45 that he wanted to go back to school. He always loved the creativity part. And so he pivoted, actually, and went back to school to get his MBA. And he now is a professor of creativity and entrepreneurship
Hmm.
at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. So he now teaches entrepreneurs, like myself, right? And probably in the future, Audrey will be an entrepreneur on her own as well, because sometimes that DNA runs deep, right?
It does.
But and I think that's what's so cool about, business, is you can create new businesses. And I'm actually the founder of four businesses, two nonprofits and two for-profits, which you mentioned, Kolar and KXI. And KXI is our newest company. It's our innovation company. And that's really where we see the future of AI, where we not only create spaces people love at Kolar, but now we can prove it with KXI and our Intel. And we just had two provisional patents issued on our methodology and our secret sauce.
Hmm.
And, KXI is now the future, where we literally measure the impact of places on people, as Audrey mentioned. That's what
Mhm.
inspired her. And now we use data to drive design decisions. So you get
Hmm.
the biggest bang for the buck and where you spend your capital. So, you can always create new. Like, I don't want anyone to ever feel limited by one thing.
Right.
There is only one founder. And as you know, when you're a founder-led organization, that first stage is really important. But you never need that stage again.
You're
The
setting the
business,
foundation, right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
and so one of the things I find interesting is that when you have a founder, sometimes they just don't let go, and that they
Ah,
really want to go towards the past, and like, well, this is the way it's been done, and this is the way, I grew this business, and you should do it this way. And I think
yep.
one of the issues is making sure that we embrace the next generation, because they are another generation. They do things different. They live in that generation, just like we did.
Yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
and if you grew up in the 60s, long hair was the Beatles. Long hair is not the Beatles anymore. So understanding, what each generation expected. But I want to just go back a little bit and talk about, how you work together, because again, you're mother-daughter in a business. So you are, as I said, your colleagues, right? So mom is technically your boss, but maybe at a higher level. How do you navigate the roles, the difference in roles between Kelly as the boss, and Audrey, you coming in as an employee? How did you navigate those differences, or how do you navigate those differences?
Well, I think one thing we've done really well is creating boundaries. Um, and we just maintain really open communication. So when we're at work, we have boundaries, right? Like she's Kelly, she's not mom, right?
I know that's a hard thing to get used to, isn't it, Kelly?
Yeah.
She's always been Kelly for me. And when I first started, I was really worried about this, and other people are always, your mom this, your mom that. And I'm like, she's Kelly, right? I was so concerned about setting that boundary, not only for us, but for others,
Yeah.
for my colleagues.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of when I've met with other family businesses, I've heard this from a lot of others that they experience something similar. Um, where you think you're the only ones dealing with this, right? And you don't realize you're like, oh no, I'm so worried that, this is, I guess I didn't know this whole family business ecosystem exists, right? And that it is normal. It is something that the majority of businesses even are, right?
There's
Um,
32 million of you in the US. 32
yeah,
million family businesses in the US.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
They're
I
all
didn't know
around
that.
you. You just
Yeah.
don't, we just don't have a little thing on above our head saying family business, family
Right.
business. But we're the driving force of the world's economy, really.
Exactly. So creating those boundaries at work, maintaining professional, contact and right, creating kind of layers of that or check-ins with that where she's not my manager.
Hmm.
I always have someone else that's my manager, right? So that the expectations are the same as the rest of our employees. Um, and then I think outside of work, just making sure that we can kind of turn the work mode off
Yeah.
and take
Hmm.
some dedicated mother-daughter time, when we can just really be there and be present in that role.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, we're really conscientious about that. We have this one like week that we spend, we call it the swim week, and we spend every night together like swimming in a pool together when it's really
Yeah.
hot in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we
But
just
it's
kind of we just kind of created these like little ways for us to create something special that was intentionally not related to work because it can definitely consume you, as you know, Debbie, right? I mean, it's so easy to go, always work on. And
Hmm.
I think you have to really make a choice about that, like Audrey said. Luckily, we're big enough. We're not a solopreneur situation where, it's just she and I in the business. I think that would be very difficult
Hmm.
with her, and people, we get so upset when people say to her, we're out somewhere, oh, are you going to take over your mom's business?
Mm.
It's like, no, I'm sorry. You don't hand a multi-million-dollar business, to a 23-year-old or whatever, I mean, it's like, no, I'm sorry. That's not what it looks like. I mean, people are so, um, it's just so interesting, like how people's
Those are people
perceptions are.
who don't work for family businesses or don't
Yeah.
understand family businesses. Because
Yeah.
that's the perception is that you just hand it over and you
Yeah.
don't,
And you
right?
don't.
But speaking of that, what is your vision, Audrey, for the future?
Well, um, right now, in the short term, I'm planning actually to go on my own path. I'm planning on going back to school and maybe get a little bit of experience outside the company.
Hmm.
Um, in the next few years, I think that that's going to be a really important time to um, learn and grow and bring that experience back because I have been working with Kelly for the past 4 years, and I've only really worked in Kolar um, since college. So planning on doing that, and then in the future, um, I'm excited to return and bring back that fresh knowledge and become a leader in the company to help us continue to expand our services and KXI, the KX Innovations business is something I'm really excited to be a part of right now.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, I talk a lot about the three circle model, which is the family, the business, and the ownership.
Yeah.
And you talked about a board and your family was your board. Is that something that has changed at all? Is it a structured board or is it still your family? And then the second part of that is, Audrey, will you stay on the board level? Because again, the board is what directs, has a strategic vision for the company. The company is what executes the vision of the owners or the board. So Kelly, first to you about the board, and then
Yeah.
second, Audrey, what is your position moving forward?
So
Sure.
I'm gonna, I'm a planner, just to say, I really should have been an urban planner, but I'm a planner. And so the question how I want to answer the question about the board and how did I use the board and how have I decided on creating a legacy firm and how do all these things kind of connect together for me? So, 7 years ago, as I mentioned, around 2017, I had decided I wanted to build a legacy firm, but I didn't know how.
Mhm.
So I contacted who then became my board chair, a gentleman named Dave Phillips. He's a kind of an enigma here in our region. He's run and built many, many companies. And I contacted him, and he had been a big part of Arthur Andersen nationally, nationwide, et cetera. And I said, Dave, I want to create a legacy firm, but I don't know how. And he said, I know exactly how to help you. You need to put a board of advisors in place,
Mhm.
and I'll start out by being your first board of advisor. So that took me on a journey. I then took a course at a local organization called the Gehring Center, who, if any of you live in whatever part of the world you live in, if you have an entrepreneurial center, there's 32 of them here in the US. The Gehring Center here is associated with University of Cincinnati, and it's a private nonprofit to help family and private businesses figure out transitions and ownership, as you so astutely described. And so I took the Gehring Center Better Board Institute program and I built out an advisory board. And initially, I just had operational excellence on the board. The first version of the board was people really helping me operationalize the business, the finance, the accounting, the ops, because obviously I was on the creative side.
Yeah.
And so the first iteration of the board was that, and Dave stayed on with me throughout that whole first and second phase. The second phase, I added my husband and our son. Audrey was still at this time in college. In the second chapter, I added my husband and my son to the board of advisors so they could begin to understand what was going on here at Kolar at that time. And what was so great about that chapter is it allowed me to have them understand what was going on. It was no longer like mom's business, right? Or, oh, that's Kelly's company. And then as Audrey joined the company 4 years ago, they were still on the board at that time, which was great. So I had that board in place for about 6 years total. And Audrey was working in the business. I was working on the business.
Mm.
Our son and my
I
husband
love
were
that you
working
distinguish that.
on the business. Right. So that way I now had everybody understanding what was going on here at Kolar as I had bigger visions of creating KXI as an innovation, AI, data-driven analytics company, and the full potential that I saw of moving the business beyond just being a small solopreneur-led company and as professional services company. So that enabled me to have everybody kind of get on the same page. And then I just dissolved that board last year for Kolar, our advisory board. I dissolved that board because I then had achieved all the things we needed to achieve. We had operationalized the business. I had a COO in the business. I had a fractional CFO. I have a senior accounting team. I have a head of HR. I've now kind of put all of that foundational aspects of running the company. So this is not just Kelly, the bookkeeper, running the company. And now I have a full business team, which is amazing. And the leaders that have joined here and the teams that have joined the company really are here for the right reasons because they believe again in the purpose. And so then now we're at the chapter that I'm at right now with forming of KXI this year in March as the new company. I know that I want to create a fiduciary board for this company because this is our
right. Understanding the differences between the two is huge.
It's huge. And so then what we did with the family side is Audrey and I also went through another program at the Gehring Center. Again, we're so fortunate to have this in our community here, where we went through something called the Next Generation Institute, which you take a course, you basically work on the business for 9 months together. Even though we were both in the business, we now took for 9 months, we worked on the business. And we went through a lot of really, really important aspects of the business, the risks in the business. What's our profiles, our personality profiles? How are we as organizational leaders, seated correctly within the business for the next stage of growth, as you described? We learned a lot about ourselves, and we really, she was with her generation. There were several next generation leaders like her that she referred to earlier, and I was with other people like myself that were first generation founders. And so we had 2 cohorts and we had a coach and we did evaluation of the company. We looked at where the Kolar Design business is. She really dove deep into her passions, as you heard her say. She's like, this has been great for 4 years, but I need to go on and explore other aspects of who I am and what I'm passionate about. And that's where she's chosen now to go off to grad school and is in the process of building that for herself. And so that freed us up to be a business first company, not a family first business. We made that decision together.
Yep. We did. And I think we learned a lot in that. We went in we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
There's so much out there that, we talked earlier about when we meet people on the street and they just assume that succession looks one way in a business and that it looks a certain way. And we learned that it doesn't need to be like that.
No.
You talked about the 3-circle model, right? We learned that ownership and leadership are not the same thing, and that there are also so many structures within those that are possible, and it's really about figuring out what's best for us
you and your company and your family. right? It's
Yes.
so important. And I think what happens is when you're first generation or founder business, that you've been so busy working in the business, you haven't had a chance to work on the business and you don't see these other opportunities. And every business that's a large business now in terms of size and or generations is because you've thought outside the box. You know,
Yeah.
you've said, okay, what are the other options here? We don't have to go down this same path. But again, you don't know what you don't know. And, you know, that's part of what this podcast is for, is to let other family businesses know that they're not alone. That way, you said, oh, I thought I was the only one. You're all the same, right?
Yeah,
Different
exactly.
company, different names, but you have the same dynamics. You have the same issues with the business, family in the
Uh-huh.
business, not in the business. Do they come in the business? Do they not come in the business? How do we transition it? You know, do you sell it? Do you merge? What do you do? So I'm really pleased to hear that you've done all of that work. That's amazing. And I hope
Yeah.
some of our listeners take that to heart and take a look at, you know, what's available in their communities, or, you know, reach out to myself and I can give you some guidance on where to go.
Love that you have focused on this in your core business for people, because we're now in the next chapter. We're looking
Hmm.
now at our 5-year plan as a family,
Hmm.
not letting the business drive our decisions, but
No,
we need
the
advisors.
family is the core. The family is the core. But it's hard because a lot of family businesses like to keep everything close to the chest and don't like to really, you know, bring in outsiders in to understand the family business or the family dynamics. You know, sometimes they're not always as great as it looks from the outside, right? And they don't really want someone to come inside and take a look at it.
So does
Um,
that mean that, are you part psychiatrist then, or
Pretty much. I
psychologist?
really, I've got an honorary degree. I've got an honorary degree, honest to
You do.
goodness.
That's great.
So believe it or not, we're out of time. I can't believe how fast it goes. But I always like to end with 3 pieces of advice. So you can decide who's giving the 2 and who's giving the 1. But what advice would you give to other families in business?
Yeah. I'd say number one, I mean, we touched on this earlier. Learn the difference between leadership and ownership and explore what those options are for you, especially when you start to think about your next generation and what that looks like. Um, there are so many options out there, and Tammy and her business is a great resource. And there are many out there. So start to think
That's great.
forward and not back.
Audrey, I've never had anybody say that before, and that is fabulous. Thank you for that one. Kelly, I guess you're up for number 2.
I think the most important thing is to think outside of your borders and out of the limits of your own mind. So finding an organization and people and a team and a coach like you, Tammy, is mission critical for anyone going through these levels of transitions and growth. And you need to really take the time to invest in your future and in the future generations of your company. Because when you founded the company, no matter who you are on this podcast, you created a unique wedge in the world, and the world needs your company. And we don't want to see those passionate leaders and owners go away. And so find a way to create a better and brighter future for you and your family.
I love that. I love that. Okay, who's
All
taking
right.
number 3?
I got number 3. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Number 3, just don't forget to make time to still be a family, I think.
Great.
Learning from each other at the office and making sure you still keep that bond strong outside of the office. That is key. We've never had a lot of the problems that a lot of family businesses are having. And those dynamics, you know, we run into whatever we're dealing with, but I think we've really kept it mostly smooth sailing. You know, the ship stays right. When you just made sure that, you know, you make time to really talk, you know. Oh,
I love that. I love that. Great advice. And you know what? When we meet with families, and even when we're doing speaking, we bring the 3 hats, and we're always making sure that you say, what lens are you looking through, or when you're saying something, are you saying it from a business, a family, or ownership side? Because
Ours.
the answer is different and the tone is different. You know, the perception of how you said it is different. So we use that all the time. I love that, Audrey. That's great.
thank you so much for having us. This has been wonderful.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find Blue Roots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.